the NFC is crazy, the AFC is an absolute shit show because you have Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, and the Browns right now. And, real quick, applause for Zach because the Miami Dolphins sitting there in the 1 seed at the moment. We talked about, for them, similar to Dallas here. We've compared those two teams all year. Get that 1 seed. You need it because it's just tough for them to go on the road in these big games. It feels like they're always on the road and they always wind up, whether it's a blowout loss or an excruciating loss, feels like Miami loses those games. You're in the driver's seat. It's pretty exciting. But for the wild card, you have the Steelers in the 6, the Colts in the 7, the Browns in the 8. I'm sorry, the Steelers 6, Colts. Oh my God, I can't count. Steelers 5, Colts 6, Browns 7. Then you have 8 Texans, 9 Broncos, 10 Bills, 11 Bengals. And the Broncos, Bills, Bengals are all at 6-6 here. Houston 7-5, outside looking in. It's still crazy to me that the Steelers, Colts, and Browns are in the playoff spots. I think the Texans, Broncos, and Bills are all better than them. Right now, Ziggy, we'll do it similarly to the NFC. Who are you most confident in to get in out of that group?
First of all, I've just got to say the Jaguars were robbed. I don't mean by Trevor Lawrence. I mean literally Amit Patel, an employee, has been accused of stealing $22 million from the Jaguars organization.
Holy crap. 22.
Yeah, no, he was just like, he took the company credit card and bought a condominium and a bunch of fancy cars and stuff.
I mean, so clearly $22 million.
That's so much money.
That's a lot.
Things
of
are clearly bad
really
in
nice apartment.
Jacksonville. But no, I mean, who do I like? Unlike the NFC, I don't feel like I can pencil in any of these spots. So realistically, what's going to happen here? The Steelers just are going to make the playoffs. They're just one of those teams. They're not going to miss because they're going to finish over 500. So they're blue sky. They're in. I really like the Texans. They got a win they really needed over the Broncos for that tiebreaker. Mm-hmm. And then because they're one of the 7 best teams, I think I just have to take the Buffalo Bills. I think they're going to make it. I don't trust the Browns to be able to keep things going down the stretch. They play some tough teams. I don't think they're going to make it. The Colts might have the tiebreaker head-to-head over the Texans, but I think the Texans are a better team. They're going to pull ahead. But the only real question I've got is that Colts-Texans question. Otherwise, I think the playoff picture is probably settled in. So that leaves the Broncos out. That leaves the Bengals out. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, I actually do have a team. I think the Texans, I'm pretty confident I can pencil them into a spot here. I love what they're doing. The Tank Dell injury absolutely sucks. It sucks to see for both my fantasy team and the Texans with how well he was playing and the way that him and CJ Stroud have been gelling all season as 2 rookies. Their schedule's Jets, Titans, Browns, Titans, Colts. I think that's a 4-1 schedule right there. That could even be 5-0. I'm confident that Houston will be able to get in, and we'll see what happens with Trevor Lawrence because he has a high ankle sprain. You're saying that he might be playing this week?
They're thinking he might play this week. My guess is he's going to take a week off and be back next week.
Yeah, I've seen 4 to 6 weeks for high ankle sprains before. For Lawrence, luckily it doesn't look like it's that bad. The injury looked horrible. But Jacksonville goes to Cleveland. They have Baltimore. They're at Tampa. I think there's still a chance here that the Texans can come in and win the AFC South, which would just, again, I think it would be an insane accomplishment for CJ Stroud. But I'm really confident that Houston will find a way into the playoffs right now. Out of all these teams here, who are we talking about? Kenny Pickett with the Steelers, Gardner Minshew and the Colts, DTR, Flacco, whoever it is with the Browns, Russ, Jake Browning. I'm going to leave out Josh Allen. He's the best there. But the Texans have the second best quarterback out of that entire group right there. And I'm not going to bet against what DeMeco Ryans has done this year. Really confident in the Texans. So I went through every game, Ziggy, and did the predictions online. It's kind of fun to do that as you get towards the end of the season. And I was a little surprised with the takeaway because, as I was saying before, I want Buffalo to get in. It's fun to watch Josh Allen. I want to see him in the playoffs, go up against the other best quarterbacks in the league. And I was trying to see if I could find a scenario. I have Buffalo getting close, but not quite there. I actually have the Texans getting in. The Jaguars are also safe. And then my other 2 teams are the Browns and the Colts, which really, I mean, stunned. If Indianapolis gets in, given everything they've gone through this year, it is such a great, like you have to be so confident as a Colts fan heading into next year that you're in the right direction getting Anthony Richardson back. But I look at who they have coming up, and Indianapolis, they go to Cincinnati, they host the Steelers, who currently are without Kenny Pickett until likely the last week of the season, go to Atlanta, host the Raiders, host the Texans. If they're 3-2 there, and I think they could beat the Steelers, beat the Falcons, beat the Raiders, you're in a good spot to sneak into the playoffs. The Browns as well, I see them beating the Jaguars this week without Lawrence, I'm imagining, beating the Bears and beating the Jets. 3-2 for both those teams. Do I think they're the best AFC teams? No, but just with the way that the schedules work out and where they're positioned at this moment, I think you're going to wind up with those 3 teams in the playoffs as your wild cards. And will it be the most entertaining games in the wild card round? Who knows? But those teams all of them have had really impressive seasons for different reasons, overcoming a lot of different obstacles. I mean, 2 of the 3 lost their starting quarterbacks for the season. So that's who I have at the moment. Is that crazy to have the Colts? Like those games seem very winnable for them, right?
Yeah, so it's certainly not crazy. The question is just whether you trust Gardner Minshew to be able to keep it going. I mean, there's a reason the Colts are relatively heavily favored to make the playoffs, right? They're like minus 190.
That's crazy.
People think this team's going to make it. It's just, I don't know. I don't trust Gardner Minshew to be able to keep things going. But look, I mean, as you say, he doesn't have to do a whole lot. There's a whole lot of winnable games here. But needing a heroic performance to win in overtime against the Titans does not bode well, even if they make the playoffs, for him to do much of anything.
Look, also keep an eye on Cincinnati. It's easy to write them off, but they looked good against Jacksonville, and they'll get their chance against the Colts. They'll get their chance against the Steelers. They play the Browns. Those are all huge games because it's all the teams you're competing with. If Jake Browning looks anything like what he did on Monday Night Football, they also have an outside chance of getting in here. Last team I want to talk about before we go to our game picks, and we could keep this quick because we talked about them earlier, but the Bills' remaining schedule, it's tough. It is to the next 2 weeks at Kansas City, hosting the Cowboys. If they're able to pull off one of the two, you finish at the Chargers versus the Patriots and at the Dolphins. It doesn't get a whole lot easier, but I think they could beat the Chargers on the road. Patriots, they should win at home. And then Miami, you could have a shot, a puncher's chance there. This is still a top 10 team in the league to me, though, talent-wise. Like, I think they're really good. It's just, you said it earlier, at some point you have to win these games, and think about how many different moments Buffalo has had. 4 turnovers against the Jets, the Patriots game-winning drive, Broncos 12 men on the field, Eagles 59-yard field goal. We're not far from looking at like a 10-2 or 9-3 Buffalo team, but because the ball has bounced a couple different ways, and it's been their fault as well. Buffalo has done this to themselves. It's going to be an uphill battle to get in, but you do think they sneak in? Do you think you're picking them more because you can't see a playoffs without Josh Allen, especially in a week?
I refuse to accept it.
Okay,
I think the odds for them making the playoffs at plus 380 are about right. But are you telling me the Buffalo Bills aren't making the playoffs?
I mean, they have to win this week.
I know. No, it's unbelievable that week 13, they are in a must-win situation going to Kansas City. I would not have expected this, but unfortunately, that's just where they are.
If they had been able to pull off that Eagles game and they were sitting at 7-5, I mean, it's a world of difference. And now we're talking about a team. A lot of people would be saying the Super Bowl could be on for Buffalo if they'd be in Philadelphia, I bet. But man, it's an uphill battle. I have them just missing it. But this is really the week where if they lose, then they're officially, to me, gone. But if they win, then we'll be here talking about them hosting the Cowboys.